What's going on, guys? Welcome to the 20 Percenters, where we focus on what matters: health, wealth, relationships, and time. I'm sitting down with Margie Conley, licensed acupuncturist, my acupuncturist at Supreme Acupuncture here in Phoenix, Arizona. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. I want to dive into the conversation of Eastern medicine with you, but I want to preface this conversation with a testimonial, because you have systematically over the last 4 months fixed my sleep. Between you, Dr. Rachel, Illy, my team of practitioners, I didn't realize how much sleep I wasn't getting because my lungs and my guts were so messed up. And through our work with acupuncture, you've freed up space in damaged and repaired knee, and allowed me to expand my lung capacity, if I'm being just extremely technical. But I want to dive into the Eastern way of that explanation here in a little bit. But yeah, because of your treatment, I'd been to the allergist and the asthma doctor for the past 18 months prior to seeing you. And I was becoming dependent on albuterol and an inhaler. And, I wanted to find another way. And Josh Weinberg sent me your way. He said, dude, you got to check her out. She knows her stuff. And, he wasn't lying. So I really appreciate everything you've done for me.
You're welcome.
Yeah. How does one find their way into, because you do a lot of work with veterans as well.
I do.
Which I also want to talk about because I'm a veteran. Yes. But how does one find their way into acupuncture? Because this isn't something that you got into straight out of college. It wasn't exactly in the design of your life plan way back when. Yeah. So how do we get here?
I would say about 10 to 15 years ago, I started looking at and exploring what energy is, how energy runs through our body, and awareness of our bodies and our thoughts and how they're all connected. And I actually went to an acupuncturist for some sinus issues that cleared up, amazingly well, and just read more about it. And I was talking to my husband, and I had no plans to attend school anymore. And we started talking, and he said, I think you would like being an acupuncturist. And I was like, I don't know. So I read about it. I went to the school, talked to the president of the company of the school, and it just made sense. Okay. Like, there was a light bulb that went on, and I thought, oh gosh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I had dreams of, when I was younger, to be a doctor. Didn't really materialize. I was going to be a nutritionist, and I didn't actually fall in line with the food pyramid. I had lots of questions and concerns about it. And when I discovered Chinese medicine and the balance and the harmony that can come from it, just resonated with me. And school was difficult, and it was hard to get through full time, but I loved it. Yeah. I loved every minute of it, and I just truly enjoy what I do.
So based on what you've explained to me, from session to session to session, so much of what we dive into to free up my lungs, work on the knee, whatever, is bringing energy back in balance: left, right, top, bottom, outside, inside. Walk us through that process, because what is extremely interesting to me about the way that you treat, and you're really the only acupuncturist I've ever seen, is the site of pain isn't the cause of pain. And moreover, for the knee, we'll do stuff on my right arm, right? What do you call it? Mirroring? Is that right?
Yes.
Did I get it right? Oh, yes. Always a student. So what is it in Eastern medicine? What are we talking about when we reference realigning energy?
So do you want me to talk about how I worked on your knee or the lungs? Because they're two different
both
mechanisms for me.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
sure.
So the knee, the one thing about the knee that I already knew from listening to you was that you had multiple surgeries and decreased range of motion, which led me to believe that there was either scar tissue buildup or inflammation. That's the Western term. In my world of Chinese medicine, I knew that the qi in the blood in the knee was not flowing. So there's 12 channels that run through the body, 12 main channels where energy flows, which we call qi. And with qi flows blood. And with your knee, I definitely knew that it wasn't flowing. It was stuck, and that was causing the pain. And so when I treat, I don't put the needles where the pain is. So I use the body to image. And in your case, I had most luck actually with the wet cupping with your knee. And so the image that I used for the knee was the scapula. To me, they're both bony structures. They are floating in a way. They're both joints. And so when I do the wet cupping on the back, it is definitely related to your knee. And the blood that comes out is thick, it's goopy, and we call it blood stasis. And so it frees up the venous system in the body, because when there's trauma, or I guess we can just say trauma, and there's inflammation. And so the inflammation pushes on the deep veins. And so there's deep veins and superficial veins. So when I do the wet cupping, I'm cupping a superficial vein to relieve pressure. Okay. In the area so it's targeted towards the knee. So then with that release of pressure, chi's flowing, blood's flowing, it's allowing Illy, your massage therapist, to work on your knee better. It's complementing each other. So what she's doing is helping me do what I do to free up the energy to flow in the knee. Sure.
And the lungs?
The lungs. What's interesting about your lung situation was you mentioned to me a very interesting phenomena. And a lot of times in Chinese medicine, when we interview, I usually take a lot of time. At the first interview or session, because I really want to get all the information that I can. Sure. And you had mentioned that, correct me if I'm wrong with the scenario, but you were out of town, I believe.
Yeah, I can tell the story.
Okay, sure.
And we'll come back to it.
Okay.
So, what triggered this entire journey into trying to fix me, we were up in Utah doing some podcasts at the CrossFit Regionals, Southwest Regionals. And we had gotten off the plane, gone to a restaurant. I had a couple of beers, nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary, literally 2 beers. And upon taking care of the check, we were heading back to the venue to watch some of the events that day. And we probably got a block from the restaurant. And I have one of the most obnoxious laughs on the planet. And I had leaned up to laugh, and as I'm inhaling, blacked out and passed out on the sidewalk, flat on my face. And literally not even 10 seconds later, came to, everybody I was with picking me up off the ground, trying to, they're asking me what happened. I'm asking them what happened, and went on with the rest of the weekend, and, so I came back and I was like, man, my wife is going to be so pissed. I'm not going to tell her. But then I knew everybody else was going to tell her. So I told her, and then we started down this road of, going to see somebody and doing the allergy and the asthma thing. And I was diagnosed with asthma, adult onset. I don't know that that's really a thing. But anyway, as I've come upon 35, some things that have started to show up. And that's what got us here. Yeah. Okay.
So there's a couple of factors in this whole thing of treating your lungs. So, but the clue that you gave me was that soon after you ate, you had this kind of a attack, and you passed out, and did you cough?
Yeah, I mean, like, I started to feel like my
right.
lungs were closing off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to me, I went right away to an extraordinary channel called the Daimai.
Okay.
So earlier I referenced there are 12 main channels. There are 8 extraordinary channels, and these channels are the first ones formed in utero, and they have extra special functions of being a reserve. So if a primary channel gets too clogged down or isn't working, it kind of filters to the extraordinary channels, and they have this reserve of chi and energy. There's only one channel in the whole body that circles the body, and it's called the Daimai, and it goes around the torso. And so because you ate and drank, and soon after, I felt like it was just stuck. So it was just like, it was like your upper body was cut off from the lower body. And that's what the Daimai does. So not only, there's a certain point combination to open the Daimai. So I opened the Daimai, but we also had to address the phlegm and the cough.
Right.
Because you were waking up at around 3 a.m. and just having these massive coughing fits, your body wasn't in a state to heal. And so I worked on giving you a formula to dissolve the phlegm, san ren tong, and then also to open up the area of your lungs to have more expansion from a Western world so you can breathe better. But for me, it's more like we have to dissolve the phlegm and get to the root of the phlegm. So in Chinese medicine, there's a saying that the spleen makes the phlegm, the lungs store the phlegm. Okay. So there is definitely a connection between the belly, the gut, and the production of phlegm. And so we went about it to, first of all, to get you to sleep. I mean, that was the main thing. So you could heal, so your body could rest. And by opening up the Daimai and slowly getting rid of the phlegm.
I mean, and I think slow is the operative word. I mean, that first 2 weeks was really, really rough. I mean, I was just experiencing this massive above and beyond what I had become used to. As I look back on it now, I mean, it's been years where, I've been on like vacation with my family and stuff like that. And they're like, dude, did you sleep at all last night? You were coughing all night long. Beyond that, I mean, I was just purging all this stuff, and I could not, I was like, where is all this coming from? It's not like I spend all day like, bringing it back in, with some kind of like postnasal drip or whatever. It was completely, it was really, really rough. I mean, when we started, I was getting less sleep than I was already getting. And then about 2 weeks later, I was telling you before, I woke up in the middle of the night because I could finally breathe, and it scared the shit out of me,
Right. Right, because your body, it took a while to heal, but because of the phlegm and the blocking off, I think that it was just really stuck, and you had to get it out. Sure. Because phlegm can hide in tissues, it can hide in joints, and it's a really good thing that we're dissolving that for you.
Yeah. So let's dive into the channels just a little bit more. I guess from a prescription standpoint, like what are you looking for in terms of which channel to treat, on a case by case basis? Is it like, knee, channel A, like what are the channels?
Okay. So in your case or
just in general?
In general. Well, I look where the area where the pain is, and there's always not always a channel, but most of the time the pain is either on a channel or very close to a channel. Okay. And so I utilize the channel system in treating, and that's why I don't put needles where the pain is, because the channels, they have friends. They have partners, they have friends, they have relationships, they have correspondence. And so I utilize my needling technique based on which channels have relationships where the pain is.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Sure. Is that why, I've had needles in my scalp, in my ears, in my thumbs. I'm trying to think, the bottom of my feet,
that's kidney one.
my toes. Yeah. So all that stuff is like super interesting. Like, the one needle in the bottom of my right foot is kidney one. Like, can educate us on like how that works. Cause I'll ask a more direct question.
Okay.
What's the difference between acupuncture and dry needling?
There's a big difference between acupuncture and dry needling.
Okay.
Acupuncture is done by licensed acupuncturists who go to accredited acupuncture schools.
Okay.
Like myself, I spent 3 years training, over 1,000 hours clinical supervision, treating patients at the student clinic. Dry needling is a technique that is used after a weekend course. So most of the people who dry needle have 20 to 30 hours of training over a weekend. So to put it back into your world, like a relationship to what you know. So you're an avid CrossFitter, you own a CrossFit gym. So if someone comes to you and says, hey, Michael, I want to be a CrossFit trainer. And so you give them a manual, they take it home for the weekend and they read it. And then they come back on Monday and saying, okay, I've read the manual. I'm going to be your top CrossFit trainer. I'm at the highest level of CrossFit training. I would imagine you might think,
definitely not.
Probably not. So the difference is the schooling that we do, the hours that we spend training, and the rich history of Chinese medicine, 3,000, 4,000 years of history behind what we learn and how to do things.
Yep.
And, I really look at the whole person. So you came for pain and phlegm, but I really look at and spend time with you and all my other patients as like, what's causing it? Let's get to the root of the problem, and we can address the branches. But if we don't go to the root, especially in your case with the phlegm, if I just put a Band-Aid on your phlegm and not gone to the source, which comes from your belly, then the phlegm's not really going to go away. It's just going to pacify it. And would you feel better? Absolutely. But in the long run, it wouldn't benefit you.
Yeah. Now, how is that played into, cause you just got on with the VA.
Yes. Right.
And you've got a huge mission in your practice to help veterans with acupuncture. I know that was a massive part of your practice back in Michigan. And you're ramping that up.
Yes.
Now that you've got all the formalities and you've cut through all the red tape, what specifically do you treat most often when it comes to veterans?
Pain.
Okay.
Pain. And it was a driving force in how I decided to treat. So when I went to school, I learned one way of treating. But when the veterans started coming and with a lot of pain, I realized that I really need to figure out how to do this, because I really feel a part of what I'm supposed to be doing is treating pain. And I really enjoy working with the veterans. And so pain is the number one.
Are we talking physical pain? Are we talking about like survivor guilt, like the pain between our ears?
It's both, actually. Okay. So a lot of times they come for physical pain, and then they realize that they're sleeping better. Or one gentleman could actually go to the grocery store. He had just fears of being around people. They're, able to hold their grandchildren without being upset, or just the quality of life for them.
Oh my God.
And so it really stems from physical pain. But in my view, pain is pain. If I can help physical pain, or if I can help emotional pain, or, in that regards, that's super rewarding for me.
Do you have specific protocols for one versus the other? Or because I totally get and understand that there is a correlation between what's going on in the brain and where it physically manifests in the body. Like that is that is a legitimate thing. But, you know, would somebody with PTSD, that's probably the buzzword for this conversation,
sure,
strategically come to acupuncture for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. When did I'll call it your mission, your initiative with veterans jump to the front of your mind?
It actually happened in acupuncture school.
Okay.
And there was an Air Force base, and I treated a handful of veterans. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, wow, this is really awesome. You know, they were coming to the student clinic and having a lot of emotional pain and physical pain. And I just thought that would be really cool to treat this population. Yeah. And so soon after graduating, I moved to Michigan, and, you know, it's just the way the universe works, right? So I was there, I don't know, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and then veterans just start coming to the clinic through, it was then HealthNet, but now it's TriWest. And so they get free acupuncture, and they just start coming. And it's such a wonderful group because they support each other. They have such a tight group of camaraderie and experiences that nobody else has, unless you're in that system, in that culture. And so they just started coming, and it was super rewarding. And when I moved here to Phoenix this spring, it was definitely, you know, my focus to work with the veterans.
When it comes to the veterans that you treat and the physical manifestation of mental pain, where does that typically show up? Is there a most often scenario, or is it case by case?
There's definitely a lot of back pain.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking? Yes. So back pain, shoulder pain, headaches, migraines, TBIs. And you mentioned this earlier, and I don't know if I fully answered it, but a lot of times the physical pain was so intense that when that gets relieved, their emotional self, just as a byproduct of what I do, lightens up. We learn in acupuncture school that it's a two-way street. Physical pain causes emotional pain, or vice versa. So you take care of one in this two-way street, then the other one automatically can lessen.
Really?
And so, yeah, so they came for pain, but then they realized all these other wonderful things were happening.
Yeah. Do you find yourself playing a bit of psychologist, you know, like not necessarily like diagnosing and treating mental stuff, but you know, they're now on your couch venting and stuff like that?
There is a bit of that. And I really try hard to stay within my scope of Chinese medicine. Right. I don't want to be a therapist, but there is a relationship that I have with my patients that, you know, I'm asking very personal questions and finding out some information. And so there is a little bit of that, but I try to frame it within Chinese medicine and how their signs and symptoms are within a Chinese medicine diagnosis. And from there, I can look at it and figure out the correct way to treat them.
Yeah. I can only imagine that, you know, at some point, probably more often than not, you end up being somebody's sounding board.
Of course. Right. You know, and sometimes that's the treatment.
Sure.
You know, sometimes they just, I had some patients who just really just want to talk for whatever reason. They, you know, and you have to put a boundary about it. And you know, I only have a certain time to treat them. And so, you know, being respectful of what they're trying to say and then helping them along.
Yeah. Yeah. How is it any different in terms of building a practice here in Phoenix than it was in Michigan?
There is a difference for sure. There it was, I didn't have to go find the patients. Okay. It was the way that it was set up. And, but here, so I'm definitely doing a lot of networking, which I like to do. Sure. I mean, that's how I found you. And so, and doing the clinic at at your CrossFit gym. So I do a lot of outreach, a lot of speaking, networking, phone calls, and
a lot of the grunt work.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part about what you do? Like what lights you up? Because I'm sure other things that you enjoy that you get immense satisfaction from, but to come into a complete shift of career field, there's got to be something above and beyond just the sheer interest of it all.
Oh,
what's the gratifying part?
The best part is when someone comes to me and they're in pain, and they leave my clinic with no pain.
And I know for me, how do you talk somebody off the ledge when they come to you for treatment? And like in my case, everything gets worse before it gets better. Like, is there, do you have a way of doing that?
I do, because what can happen is that it is very common after acupuncture treatment, within 24 to 48 hours, that the person can experience even more pain. So let's say they come, their pain is 3 out of 10 or whatever, and then they leave 0 out of 10. And the next 24 to 48 hours, the pain can really shoot up.
Okay.
And it's very common. I do tell my patients, and I remind them, even if they're a repeat patient, because I don't, especially a new patient who's never had acupuncture, and then they leave and they're feeling great. Then all of a sudden their pain is out of control. And I don't want them to think that, that I did something to them.
Sure.
And so the analogy that I use is that if you can think of a river, and that's the channel in the body, and where the pain is, the river is dammed. Okay. Yep. So through my acupuncture needles, through even Moxa Bustion that I use on you, I open up the channel. So the dam is let loose.
Sure.
And so when a dam breaks away, water just flows, and it flows quickly and fast. It's like, newfound freedom. And so when the chi flows in that channel, there's certain 2-hour increments where the chi is flowing in the channel where the pain is. And so during that time, the body's trying to adjust. It's trying to heal. It's a great sign for me as a practitioner.
Right.
It completely stings for the patient. They have to wade through this time of uncomfortableness. Right. And then the pain can lessen or even just eliminate. Right. So there is that educational part when someone leaves to let them know that.
Yeah. I remember coming to you for the second, my second treatment very, very vividly. And you were asking me how I was doing. I was like, it's so much worse. Like, I wasn't sleeping before. Right. I'm really not sleeping now. And, we had that conversation. And another, when I came back for the third time, that was, I think I was going my second night of sleeping more than 2.5 hours at a shot. I slept for 9 hours straight, and it was and it's been like that ever since, unless I decide to go off the rails on date night with my wife or something like that. And just, having you in my corner, to, as I figure out what the triggers are that bring back the phlegm and stuff like that, and wading those waters, as you put it, has been just extremely powerful in getting my sleep back. Because, for as healthy a lifestyle as I live, the things that are coming out in terms of research and whatnot, it used to be, in the late 90s, early 2000s, everybody was overtraining, right? That was like the thing. And that was like the big knock against CrossFit, was like, everybody's overtraining. That shit's too hard. Average people shouldn't do it, whatever. And now the literature is really substantiating under recovery. specifically with sleep. So you're seeing all these wearables now and stuff like that. People are becoming more in tune with how they're recovering. And when you have, it's funny, we're talking about sleep, but I'm going to use the word awakening. When you have that awakening about, how important sleep actually is, what I've found through working with you, it's not necessarily about the duration of sleep. It's more important, it's the quality of sleep. Like if I was still getting that same 2.5 hours, right? But I could hit REM, 5 minutes after shutting my eyes, right? The next 2 hours and 25 minutes is better than rolling around all night long for 8 hours.
Right.
Would you agree with that statement?
Well, I do, because from a Chinese perspective, when you sleep, the qi goes deep.
Okay.
And so it's nourishing you, and you weren't ever in a time frame long enough for your body to be nourished. So even if you had the capacity to nourish, your body you couldn't do it. So getting you to sleep was a main goal of you coming to me. And, we already discussed that part of it, but the sleeping was a huge factor in your healing.
Yeah. You're, I remember having so many questions about like the knee and the lungs and, those two specific pieces of anatomy, and then having needles like everywhere else but there. When you do, I'll just kind of walk through where you put the needles on me and kind of explain what it's doing. So when you put the needles in the top of my scalp, I'll just work down.
Sure.
What are we opening up or?
Well, the very top of the head is a point called Du 20 or Ba Hui. And
write that down. Just kidding.
I can spell it later if you'd like. So Du 20 is a very powerful point. And I do it on almost everybody. Or if not everyone. It has an ascending quality, and it helps. I feel, you have a clearness of thought. There's a saying that the clear yang needs to rise up for thought, focus, and concentration. And especially in your case, because you had phlegm, and the phlegm was blocking your clearness of thought, concentration, and focus for rising. So I wanted to enhance that for you. So do that point. And then sometimes on your head, if you had back pain, like right up, like if I went up from the eyebrows, it's the urinary bladder channel. And so that's where the pain is on the back. The UB channel goes not only on the head, but down on the back. So like I image, so like this is like the low back. So I would put points there.
Yep.
And then I also utilize the ear quite often.
Oh yeah.
The ear, if you looked at a picture of a fetus and you like called up like that and placed that on the ear.
Oh,
so
sure.
where the organs line up, and the body is equivalent to the ear.
Yeah.
So where the kidney point is, if you put that image of a fetus curled up on the ear, that's where the kidney is. The kidney point, the liver point. So for you, I did spleen and lung.
Yep.
I did a point called Shen Men, which it can be used for pain, but if there's one point in the ear, it's like the go-to point. I put Shen Men in everybody because it relaxes, especially someone who's new to acupuncture and they're a little bit nervous. So and then I do points in your ear for the knee. I do the knee point, and I also do the lower vertebra points. Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of relaxation because of the ear, I lose track of time in here because as soon as the needles go in, I fall asleep. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, did I miss my next appointment? What are we doing right now?
Right.
So moving down from the crown of my head to my ears, we've had needles in my forearm, in my wrist, the distal knuckle of my thumb, and the furthest point my fingertip. Walk us through those points.
Okay, so the points on that arm and that leg are both yang points, because yin and yang is the foundation of Chinese medicine. Okay. And it's everything in Chinese medicine is yin and yang. Mm-hmm. If I can't figure something out or I'm struggling, I go back to yin. Is it yin or is it yang? Okay. And then I branch out from there.
How do you determine which is which? What's yin and what's yang? It's already established for us.
So, so the channel that I used on today's treatment on your right arm was the large intestine channel. Okay. It's yang. This channel was the stomach channel, yang. This arm was the pericardium, yin. Mm-hmm. This channel on the other foot was the kidney, which is yin. Okay. And so they are, and the reason I use those two channels is because they target the narrow part of here. Mm-hmm. So like, this is where I feel like your phlegm is. Mm-hmm. Before it was more broad, like here, the whole lung. And so I used a different combination. Sure. But the treatment today is more structured for the narrow part. Because when you cough up phlegm, I feel it kind of comes up here through your throat and out the mouth. Okay. And so those 4 channels that I use are directly targeted to that area. Okay. Got it. It just, always blows my mind. Simply because this is an area of a recovery practice that I'm so unfamiliar with. But at the same time, it's been the efficacy of the treatment has, compared to what I've done up to this point to Band-Aid the asthma, with Western modalities has been incredible. And you have a menagerie of herbal treatment in your practice as well. I'm going to blow it. The chaga? No, that's the tea. Mm-hmm. The, where you light it's like an incense. Oh, the Moxa. Moxa. There you go. How does that work? Oh gosh, I love Moxa. So Moxa is the process of using the herb is called moxibustion. Mm-hmm. The herb itself is actually called Aya. Okay. In Western terms, it's known as mugwort. Okay. So it comes in various forms. So the form that I use, it looks like a black cigar. Mm-hmm. And it needs to be heat activated. So I light it with a lighter. Uh-huh. And Moxa, so everyone just calls it moxibustion. They just call it Moxa. So even the herb itself is called Moxa, when really it's known as Aya. Got it. So Moxa does 3 things. It warms, it nourishes, and has a moving quality to it. Okay. So I use Moxa for you, I use it on all of the needles because I want the action of the needles to be amplified by the Moxa, the moving quality of Moxa. And for your knee, especially what I work on with the knee is the scar. You have 2 scars. Yes. So I Moxa directly over the scar and it's very warm. And I am careful to not get too close to the skin because actually you're sleeping and you kind of wake up and I don't want it to hurt you. I was going to say, depending on how deep a sleep I'm actually in, I may or may not feel it. Right. There've been a number of times where you're like, did you feel the Moxa? And I was like, oh, we did that. Okay. Yes. But it's very nourishing and I just love the herb because I feel like there's a couple of herbs within Chinese materia medica that I resonate with more. And I just have a connection to it, and Moxa is one of them. Yep. And so even though it's warm and we're in a very warm climate, I still use it, even though, adding more heat to somebody who has heat, I have to be a little bit careful with it, but it's, the benefits of it definitely outweigh any heat that would be transferred to you. Yeah. You just, opened my eyes, to, just a broader scope. And, I advise people that have
gut issues, latent, pain, post-surgery, stuff like that. Specifically when somebody comes to me and said, I've tried everything, the first question I now ask is, have you tried acupuncture? And the handful of people I've sent your way speak so highly of the treatment and how you practice. So it works. I love it. I'm just so impressed with the result. Having done everything if I was still on active duty, doing everything the Marine Corps way, above and beyond ibuprofen and water, which is kind of the joke when we go get treated, this oh, you got a broken leg, ibuprofen and water. Oh, you got asthma, ibuprofen and water. It's just been incredible to be treated by you and get the exposure to acupuncture, because as I'm sure this modality of treatment has a lot of interesting labels out there in the world. It's voodoo, it's quack stuff, it's placebo, blah blah blah. And having spent as much time on the table as I have, and then going back and, like you were saying, complementing what I get in massage therapy and working with Dr. Rachel, my naturopath, it all complements each other. The range of motion that's improved because my training hasn't changed. This is what's interesting, and this is how I've determined the reality of this modality. I've been getting regular massage therapy since forever, and my training style and intensity hasn't really changed over the last 10 years. But my knee has always been a thing, right? Sure. No matter how much active release therapy. I mean, I've done stem cell, everything just south of manipulation under anesthesia, where they put you under and just crank and blast away the scar tissue. And it has not really ever gotten better. And since introducing acupuncture into my recovery practice, each and every week, we get more and more range of motion out of that knee. So, and like I was telling you earlier today, the post-training inflammation has decreased significantly.
It's fabulous.
So I'm I'll sing your praises to the rooftop. I completely ruined that, but I'm extremely impressed with the results I've received, and everybody that I've sent your way has the same kind of story. So really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely, thank you.
And thank you on behalf of us veterans for making that such a significant part of your mission.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. So for everybody that is interested in this awakening that I've had, where can they find you and Supreme?
They can find Supreme Acupuncture online. They can call me at 602-730-4332. I am happy to do a phone consultation with anyone. And one thing that I wanted to say is that, and you was not ever having coming to acupuncture before, and you had that kind of a healing crisis in the beginning, but you kept coming. And it does take a while, because sometimes people if they don't get results right away, or some results, but it doesn't go away completely. I mean, it really does take time. Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing patients now where I'm kind of demanding that they come twice a week.
Yeah.
They have to come twice a week for, 4 to 5 weeks for their condition in order for, even if they're feeling better, really to get the full effect of what I can do and how the body can heal itself. So there is a commitment that you've shown, which I really appreciate, and a compliance also with all the herbs and suggestions that I have. And I think that really plays a big part in working together.
No, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to hear that I'm a good patient. Usually I suck at this game, so that's awesome.
No, you definitely are.
No, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know that you're super busy, and as you continue to build Supreme Acupuncture, I'm really happy that my circle, my clients, my members, my athletes have access to you, and you are now a resource for them as well. So
thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah, really appreciate you taking the time. For you 20%ers out there, remember, focus on the things that matter: health, wealth, relationships, and time. And we'll see you next time.